Okay, quick rundown on how Big Reactors works. Big Reactors add multi-blocks that generate an arse ton of power. This is the most basic reactor you can build. The edges of it need to be built entirely out of reactor casing. You need at least one controller, in fact only one controller, a power tap, and an access port to insert fuel. It uses yellorium or plutonium, which is synthetic. You also need at least one fuel rod on the inside and one control rod. Fuel rods must stretch from the bottom of the construct to the top internally, and they must always be capped with a control rod. So as you can see, this one, they generate based on heat. Simple enough. The higher the heat, the more fuel it'll use, but the more energy it'll generate. Reactors are most efficient if you manage to get them to around 2000 degrees. Okay? We'll go over these in just a second. So this is the most simple reactor. Generates about 260 RF per tick. 20 ticks in a second. So, decent amount of energy. This is just output. This is a slightly bigger reactor. Inside, you can put coolants. Fuel rods output energy in all four cardinal directions. You need to dissipate this heat so that you can have a good amount of energy without wasting so much fuel. So this one has higher temperature, but it also generates far more power because I've got extra fuel rods in there. So this is too tall internally, and it has a total of 6 rods in 3 stacks. They're also next to each other. Fuel rods that are next to each other irradiate each other, increasing fuel efficiency, which is designated by this. Okay? Simple enough if you think about it. So, more irradiated the core is, the less fuel you'll use. Simple enough. You can also put coolants in there, like I said. Water is a simple coolant, but it works well enough. Once you start getting into bigger reactors, you might want to get better coolant. This is liquefied ender pearls, otherwise known as resonant ender. A bit dangerous to work with, because if you touch it, it'll actually teleport you, but it's pretty useful. Because they only output in the 4 cardinal directions, you can fill the quote-unquote empty space, or unused space, with filler blocks, such as iron. You can use any block, or almost any block, except reactor components themselves in the internals. Iron just looks good, and you'll often have plenty of it. So this one, see, now we're getting into a lot of power. This is the average size reactor that most bases will need. This will be able to run most of your machines almost around the clock, and any excess can be put into a storage container such as a capacitor bank. So, 4,500 RF per tick. That's a lot of power, okay? And the core heat doesn't get too high. However, of course, basically, the cooler your reactor is, the more efficient it's going to be, up until a certain point. But the taller it is, the more inefficient it's going to be, because you're using more fuel at the same time. This is my personal favourite reactor design. This is Gelled cryothium. It is the best type of coolant. It's added by thermal foundation. It's quite complicated to get, but once you start producing it, it's very, very useful. It's also lethal. Don't touch this stuff. It's as bad as lava, if not worse, because it's sticky. So, yeah, that's a lot of fuel rods. 3 tall internally, 9 rods in the center, and then 4 on the outside. Still going up. Still going up. This is not the most efficient design. You want to tinker with this stuff yourself, see what you can do. Okay? You never know what you're going to be able to get with this stuff if you just use a little bit of ingenuity. This is just the design that I go with. I often make it taller if I somehow need more power. So yeah, a not inconsiderable 24.8 thousand RF per tick. Yeah, I could make this thing more efficient if I wanted to, but I don't think I need to. So that's a rapid rundown of big reactors. I'm probably going to do more of these, but for now, bye!